Miami, Florida, July 14, 2017. The sun hadn't yet broken through the horizon when Linda Grant woke to the gentle rocking of the Celestial Dream cruise ship. The air conditioning hummed softly in their cabin, a compact but comfortable space on Deck 7. She blinked in the darkness, disoriented for a moment before remembering where she was. The Bahamas, day 3 of what was supposed to be a healing vacation after a brutal divorce. She turned her head toward the twin bed where her daughter Sophia should have been sleeping. The sheets were rumpled, empty. Linda's heart gave a small skip, but she forced herself to remain calm. Sophia was 9 years old, adventurous, curious, always exploring. She'd probably just gone to the bathroom. "Sophia," Linda whispered, not wanting to wake her fully if she'd already returned and was sleeping in an odd position she couldn't see in the darkness. No response. Linda sat up, her cotton nightgown clinging to her skin in the recycled air. She reached for the lamp on the nightstand between the beds and clicked it on. Warm yellow light flooded the cabin. Sophia's bed was definitely empty. Her favorite stuffed dolphin, which she'd named Captain Fins, lay abandoned on the pillow. Sophia never went anywhere without that dolphin. A cold tendril of worry began to snake through Linda's chest. She stood quickly, her bare feet padding across the thin carpet to the bathroom. The door was ajar, the light off. She pushed it open anyway, knowing already what she'd find. Empty. The small space smelled of the tropical scented soap they'd used before bed. "Sophia?" Linda called louder now, checking the narrow closet where their clothes hung. Nothing but sundresses and shorts swaying slightly with the ship's movement. Linda's breathing quickened. She checked her phone on the nightstand. 4:47 a.m. The ship's hallways would be nearly deserted at this hour. Where could Sophia have gone? And why? She pulled on a pair of shorts and a t-shirt, her hands trembling slightly as she tied her hair back. Rational thoughts tried to push through the rising panic. Sophia was responsible for her age. She knew their cabin number. Maybe she'd gone to get ice from the machine down the hall. Maybe she'd felt sick and gone to find a crew member. Maybe she was just exploring the empty decks, watching for the sunrise like she'd talked about doing. But without Captain Fins? Linda grabbed her key card and stepped into the hallway. The fluorescent lights were harsh after the cabin's dimness. The corridor stretched in both directions, doors lining both sides like a hotel, completely silent except for the ever-present hum of the ship's engines. A piece of paper someone had dropped lay on the carpet near the elevator bay. "Sophia," Linda called, her voice echoing strangely in the enclosed space. She walked quickly toward the elevators, then changed her mind and headed for the stairs. Sophia loved the stairs, always racing up and down them despite Linda's warnings to be careful. The stairwell was empty, the metal steps cold under Linda's feet. She climbed up to Deck 8, then 9, calling her daughter's name at each landing. Her voice was getting hoarse, tinged with an edge of hysteria she couldn't quite control. On Deck 10, the Lido deck where the pools and buffet restaurants were located, Linda burst through the door. The area was deserted, chairs stacked neatly, the pools covered with safety nets for the night. The sky was beginning to lighten at the eastern horizon, a pale gray bleeding into the deep purple of night. "Sophia!" Linda screamed now, not caring who she woke. "Sophia!" A crew member in a white uniform emerged from a service corridor, a young man with a name tag that read, Marco. His eyes widened at the sight of Linda's frantic state. "Ma'am, is everything all right?" "My daughter, she's missing. She's 9 years old, blonde hair. She was wearing pink pajamas with stars on them. Have you seen her?" Marco's professional mask slipped for just a moment, revealing genuine concern. "No, ma'am, I haven't. When did you last see her?" "I don't know. I woke up and she was gone. Maybe an hour ago? Maybe less? I don't know." Linda's voice cracked. "We need to search the ship. We need to—" "Ma'am, please try to stay calm. Let me radio security immediately." Marco pulled a walkie-talkie from his belt and spoke rapidly into it, his words a mixture of English and what sounded like Italian. Within seconds, a response crackled back. More crew members began appearing from various parts of the deck. Within 10 minutes, Linda found herself in the ship's security office, A cramped room filled with monitors showing feeds from cameras throughout the vessel. A stocky man with graying hair and a captain's uniform introduced himself as Captain Richard Donovan. "Mrs. Grant, we're initiating our missing person protocol. We have cameras throughout the ship, and we'll review the footage from your cabin's corridor. Can you tell me exactly what time you last saw Sophia?" Linda tried to focus through the fog of terror. "We went to bed around 10:30. She was fine, excited about swimming with dolphins today in Nassau. I checked on her before I fell asleep, maybe 11. She was already asleep." Captain Donovan nodded, his expression grave but controlled. This wasn't his first missing person case, Linda realized with a sinking feeling. A young woman at a computer terminal nearby began typing rapidly, pulling up video feeds. "Here's your corridor from midnight to now," the woman said, pointing at a screen. They all watched. At 3:17 a.m., their cabin door opened. Linda gasped. A small figure in pink pajamas slipped out, looking both ways down the hall. Sophia. She was carrying something, a piece of paper maybe. She turned right and walked quickly toward the stairwell, glancing back once at the cabin door before disappearing from view. "She left on her own," Captain Donovan said quietly. "That's good. It means she wasn't taken. Now we need to track her movements." The security team worked quickly, following Sophia's path through the ship's camera network. She went up the stairs to Deck 9, then walked along the exterior promenade deck. The cameras there were spaced further apart, designed mainly to monitor for people climbing railings. At 3:24 a.m., Sophia appeared on one camera near the midship area, still walking with apparent purpose. Then nothing. "Where's the next camera?" Linda demanded, gripping the edge of the desk so hard her knuckles turned white. "There should be one at the aft section," the security officer at the computer said, clicking through feeds. "Here, but she doesn't appear. She should have walked past this point within 2 minutes, but she never shows up." "What does that mean?" Linda's voice was barely a whisper. Captain Donovan's jaw tightened. "It means she either went back the way she came, went through a door into an interior corridor, or..." He didn't finish the sentence. "Or she went over the railing." The words hung unspoken in the air, crushing and impossible. "No," Linda said firmly. "No, Sophia wouldn't do that. She's terrified of heights. She wouldn't even look over the railings when we walked around the deck yesterday. Search the ship. Search every inch of it. Mrs. Grant, we will conduct a thorough search, but I also need to notify the Coast Guard if there's any possibility that Sophia went overboard. Time is critical. The currents here are strong, and we've been moving at 17 knots. Every minute matters." Linda felt the room spin. This couldn't be happening. 6 hours ago, she'd tucked Sophia into bed, kissed her forehead, told her they'd have a wonderful day tomorrow. 6 hours ago, her daughter had been safe, warm, real. "Start the search," she heard herself say from very far away. "Please, just find her." The next hours blurred into a nightmare of systematic horror. The ship's crew conducted a cabin-by-cabin search. Announcements in multiple languages blared over the PA system, asking all passengers to check their cabins and report to their muster stations for a head count. The Celestial Dream turned around, retracing its route through the dark waters, searchlights scanning the ocean's surface. Linda stood on Deck 7's exterior promenade as the sun rose fully, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink that seemed obscene in their beauty. Coast Guard helicopters appeared in the distance, their rotors cutting through the morning air. Small boats launched from the cruise ship, crew members with binoculars scanning the water for any sign of pink pajamas, blonde hair, anything. A crew member brought Linda coffee she couldn't drink. A ship's doctor offered sedatives she refused. She couldn't be numb. She had to be alert, had to be ready for when they found Sophia. When, not if. When. But as the morning stretched into afternoon and the afternoon into evening, the when began to feel more like if. The Coast Guard commander, a weathered woman named Lieutenant Chen, sat down with Linda in a private meeting room. "Mrs. Grant, I need to be honest with you about what we're facing. The ocean currents in this area are complex and strong. If your daughter entered the water at approximately 3:30 this morning, she would have been carried considerable distance. We've been searching an expanding grid pattern, but the area grows exponentially with each hour. What are you saying? Linda asked, though she knew. I'm saying that after 14 hours in the water, even if she somehow survived the initial impact, hypothermia and exhaustion would have. Lieutenant Chen's professionalism cracked slightly. I'm so sorry. We'll continue searching until dark, but I wanted to prepare you for the reality we're facing. Linda stared at the woman, trying to process words that made no sense. Sophia was 9 years old. She had a spelling test on Friday. She wanted to be a marine biologist. She'd lost her first tooth in that very cabin 2 days ago and put it under her pillow for the tooth fairy. She couldn't be gone. But as the sun set on July 14, 2017, painting the ocean in blood-red hues, the search was called off. A memorial service was quietly arranged for the following morning. The cruise ship's chaplain spoke to Linda about funeral arrangements. The word body was carefully avoided. Recovery was listed as unlikely due to marine conditions, and the time elapsed. Linda sat alone in the cabin that night, holding Captain Finn's, breathing in the faint scent of Sophia's strawberry shampoo still clinging to the dolphin's worn fabric. The bed where her daughter had slept was still unmade, the sheet still holding the impression of a small body that had once been there. On the nightstand, Linda noticed something she'd missed before in her panic. A piece of paper, folded small. She opened it with shaking hands. In Sophia's careful, looping handwriting, Mom, went to see the sunrise. Back soon. Love you. Linda crumpled the note against her chest and finally allowed herself to sob. Great wrenching sounds that seemed to be torn from somewhere deep inside her soul. Her baby had gone to see the sunrise. Such a simple, beautiful, innocent thing. And somehow, impossibly, she'd never come back. Miami, Florida, July 28th, 2017. The funeral home smelled of lilies and something chemical Linda couldn't identify. Formaldehyde, perhaps, or industrial carpet cleaner. She sat in the front row of folding chairs, staring at the small white urn on the pedestal. Inside were ashes that weren't Sophia's. Couldn't be Sophia's. The Coast Guard had never recovered a body, but people needed something to mourn over. The funeral director had explained gently. Something tangible. So Linda had agreed to the symbolic ashes, purchased from a crematorium that kept such things on hand for situations exactly like this. The thought made her sick, that there was enough demand for fake ashes that funeral homes kept a supply. The chapel was fuller than Linda had expected. Neighbors from their apartment complex in Miami. Teachers from Sophia's school. Parents of Sophia's classmates, many with their children in tow. The kids fidgeting uncomfortably in dress clothes. Linda's sister, Rebecca, sat beside her, holding her hand so tightly Linda's fingers had gone numb. Linda's ex-husband, David, sat 3 rows back. They'd spoken briefly when he arrived, the first time they'd seen each other since the divorce was finalized in March. He looked hollowed out, his eyes red-rimmed. Whatever anger and resentment had existed between them had been burned away by shared grief. Their daughter was dead. Nothing else mattered. Except Linda wasn't sure Sophia was dead. She hadn't told anyone about the doubt that had been growing in her mind like a poisonous flower. How could she? What evidence did she have except a mother's instinct and a series of details that didn't quite add up? The cruise ship's security footage had shown Sophia walking toward the aft section of Deck 9 at 3:24 a.m., but she never appeared on the next camera. The official explanation was that she must have climbed over the railing in that blind spot, a section about 40 feet long where the camera coverage didn't reach because of a support pillar. But Linda had walked that section a dozen times since returning to port. She'd studied the railing height, 42 inches. Sophia was only 4'3". Even if she'd wanted to climb over, which made no sense, it would have been difficult. She would have needed to use something to step on, and there was nothing there, just smooth deck and an unclimbable railing. Then there were the witness accounts. 3 different crew members had reported seeing a child matching Sophia's description in restricted areas in the hours before dawn. One said he'd seen a blonde girl near the crew quarters on Deck 3 around 3:00 a.m. Another reported a child in pink pajamas near the laundry facilities on Deck 2 at 3:45 a.m. A third claimed to have seen a small blonde girl being led by a crew member toward the service elevator at 4:15 a.m. But when pressed by investigators, all three had become uncertain. Maybe it hadn't been a child. Maybe it was just shadows and exhaustion. Night shifts played tricks on the mind. The accounts were dismissed as unreliable. Linda had hired a private investigator, a former Coast Guard officer named Marcus Webb. He'd reviewed everything: the security footage, the witness statements, the search patterns. His conclusion had been diplomatic but clear. There was no evidence of foul play. Children fell from cruise ships. It was rare but not unheard of. The psychological trauma Linda had experienced, combined with the lack of physical remains, was causing her to construct alternative explanations to avoid accepting an unbearable truth. In other words, she was in denial. Maybe she was. Maybe the doubt was just her mind's way of protecting itself from reality. But sitting here, staring at an urn of someone else's ashes, listening to a minister who'd never met Sophia talk about angels and God's mysterious ways, Linda felt the doubt crystallize into something harder. Something like certainty. Something was wrong about July 14th, 2017. Something beyond a tragic accident. The minister finished his remarks. Rebecca squeezed Linda's hand. "Do you want to say something?" Linda stood on shaking legs and walked to the podium. 100 pairs of eyes watched her. She looked out at the gathering and tried to find words. Sophia was... She stopped, corrected herself. Sophia is the most curious person I've ever known. When she was 4, she asked me why the sky was blue. I gave her the simple answer about light scattering, but she wanted to know more. We spent 3 hours watching YouTube videos about electromagnetic radiation and wavelengths. She understood concepts that most adults don't think about. Linda's voice cracked, but she pushed forward. She was going to be a marine biologist. She'd already planned it out. She was going to study at the University of Miami, get her PhD, work for NOAA studying dolphin communication. She had her whole life mapped out. The tears came now, but Linda didn't wipe them away. I don't know what happened on that ship. I may never know. But I know my daughter. I know she was brave and smart and careful. And I know that somewhere, somehow, the truth about that morning is waiting to be found. She looked directly at David. His face was buried in his hands. I will find that truth. I promise you, Sophia. Wherever you are, I will find it. The words hung in the air, strange and out of place at a funeral. People shifted uncomfortably. Rebecca looked at her with concern. But Linda meant every word. This wasn't grief talking. This was a vow. After the service, people milled around the reception area, eating finger sandwiches and speaking in hushed tones. Linda accepted condolences mechanically, nodding and thanking people whose faces blurred together. Her phone buzzed constantly. Messages from friends, from journalists who'd gotten her number somehow, from true crime podcasters wanting interviews. David approached as the crowd thinned. They stood facing each other, two people who'd once loved each other enough to create a child, now connected only by shared loss. "Linda," he said quietly, "what you said in there, about finding the truth, you need to let this go. You need to grieve and heal. This obsession isn't healthy." "Don't," Linda said sharply. "Don't you dare tell me how to grieve. Where were you when she needed you? When was the last time you even called her?" It was unfair, and she knew it. David had been a decent father during the marriage. The distance that developed after the divorce wasn't entirely his fault, though Linda had never fully forgiven him for the affair that ended their marriage. David's face hardened. "I loved her too. I'm destroyed too. But I'm trying to accept what happened because living in denial will only make it worse. The investigators, the Coast Guard, the FBI, everyone agrees it was an accident. There's no conspiracy here, just a horrible, senseless tragedy." "The FBI?" Linda's head snapped up. "What FBI? I was never contacted by the FBI." David looked confused. "They called me 2 days ago, an agent named Sullivan from the Miami field office. He said they'd reviewed the case at the request of the cruise line's insurance company. Routine stuff. He said there was no evidence of criminal activity. Linda's mind raced. Why would the FBI review the case for an insurance company? That made no sense. Insurance companies hired private investigators, not federal agents. And why contact David but not her? Did he give you a phone number? Yeah, I think I still have his card. David pulled out his wallet and extracted a business card. Here. Linda took it. FBI Miami Field Office and Special Agent Kevin Sullivan, a phone number and email address. It looked legitimate. Can I keep this? David nodded, his expression softening slightly. Linda, please talk to someone, a therapist. You're not thinking clearly. I'm worried about you. I'm fine, Linda lied. I just need time. After David left, Linda found Rebecca organizing leftover food in the funeral home's kitchen. Becca, I need to tell you something. Her sister looked up, concerned. What is it? I don't think Sophia's dead. Rebecca's expression went through several changes: shock, worry, sadness. Linda, honey, we talked about this with Dr. Morrison. It's a normal stage of grief, too. I'm not in denial, listen to me. Linda pulled out her phone and opened the Notes app where she'd been documenting everything. 3 crew members saw a child matching Sophia's description after she disappeared from the cameras. The timeline doesn't work. The railing height doesn't work. And now there's an FBI agent investigating for an insurance company, which makes no sense. Rebecca set down the foil-covered tray she'd been holding. What are you saying? You think someone took her? Linda, the ship was searched from top to bottom. They interviewed every single crew member and passenger. Where could someone hide a child on a cruise ship for hours during an active search? I don't know, Linda admitted. But something happened. Something we're not seeing. And I'm going to find out what. Rebecca pulled her into a tight hug. Okay. If you need to do this, I'm with you. But please also talk to Dr. Morrison. Promise me you'll keep seeing him. I promise. That night, Linda returned to their apartment alone. Rebecca had offered to stay, but Linda needed solitude. She needed to think. She spread everything out on the dining room table, printed security camera stills, witness statements she'd obtained through Marcus Webb, maps of the cruise ship's layout, tide charts and current patterns from the Coast Guard search. She'd become obsessed with these documents over the past 2 weeks, studying them until her eyes burned and her head pounded. At midnight, she called the number on Agent Sullivan's card. It rang 4 times before going to voicemail. Standard FBI greeting, asking her to leave a message. Agent Sullivan, this is Linda Grant, Sophia Grant's mother. I understand you reviewed my daughter's case. I'd like to speak with you about your findings. Please call me back at this number. She hung up and stared at the evidence spread before her. Somewhere in this mess of paper and data was the answer. Somewhere was the key to what really happened to Sophia. Her phone rang at 1:47 a.m., jolting her awake. She'd fallen asleep at the table, her cheek pressed against a map of the ship's crew areas. Hello? Mrs. Grant, this is Kevin Sullivan, FBI. I'm sorry to call so late, but I just got your message and wanted to respond. Linda sat up straight, suddenly alert. Thank you for calling back. I have some questions about your investigation. There was a pause. Mrs. Grant, I'm not sure what you're referring to. I didn't conduct an investigation into your daughter's case. The FBI wasn't involved at all. Linda's blood ran cold. But you spoke to my ex-husband, David. You told him you reviewed the case for the insurance company. I've never spoken to anyone named David Grant. Mrs. Grant, are you sure you have the right agent? There are several Kevin Sullivans in federal law enforcement. I have your business card right here, Miami Field Office. Another pause, longer this time. Can you read me the phone number on that card? Linda did. The silence that followed was heavy with implication. Mrs. Grant, that's not an FBI number. That's not even a government number. Someone gave your ex-husband a fake card with my name on it. The room seemed to tilt. Why would someone do that? I don't know, Agent Sullivan said carefully, but I think you need to file a police report. And Mrs. Grant? Be very careful who you trust. After the call ended, Linda sat in the darkness of her apartment, her heart pounding. Someone was lying. Someone was covering something up. Someone wanted everyone to believe Sophia had died in a tragic accident, which meant Sophia might not be dead at all. Miami, Florida, March 2023. Dr. Morrison's office had become a sanctuary Linda both needed and resented. The soft gray walls, the white noise machine humming in the corner, the box of tissues strategically placed on the side table, all of it designed to facilitate the kind of emotional breakdown she'd been having twice monthly for nearly 6 years. "How are you sleeping?" Dr. Morrison asked, his pen poised over his notepad. Linda shrugged. "Same as always. 4, maybe 5 hours a night. And the dreams, less frequent." This was a lie. The dreams came every night. Sophia calling for her from dark water, Sophia's face appearing in crowds, Sophia aging in real time from 9 to 15 while Linda watched helplessly, unable to reach her. Dr. Morrison nodded, making a note. He was in his late 50s with kind eyes and an irritating habit of waiting for her to fill silences. After 6 years, Linda had learned not to fill them. Let him wait. "Have you been tracking your grief triggers like we discussed?" Another thing Linda had stopped doing around year 3. The grief tracking journal, the mindfulness exercises, the support group meetings, all the tools designed to help her process and move forward. As if Sophia were a traumatic event to be processed rather than a daughter who might still be alive somewhere. "Linda," Dr. Morrison said gently, setting down his pen, "I know you don't want to hear this, but I'm concerned about your quality of life. You're functioning, working, maintaining your apartment, seeing your sister regularly, but you're not living. You're waiting." "Wouldn't you wait?" Linda asked quietly. "If it were your child and you knew in your bones that something wasn't right about their death, wouldn't you wait for proof?" They'd had this conversation in various forms dozens of times. Dr. Morrison believed her certainty that Sophia was alive was a complex manifestation of unresolved grief. Linda believed Dr. Morrison was a well-meaning therapist who would never understand what it meant to know your child was out there somewhere. The fake FBI card had led nowhere. Real Agent Sullivan had helped Linda file a report, but the Miami PD's investigation had stalled quickly. David claimed he'd received the card by mail with a brief letter explaining the FBI's findings. The letter had been typed, unsigned, mailed from a FedEx in Fort Lauderdale. Security footage from that FedEx had been overwritten weeks before the police requested it. Dead end. Marcus Webb, the private investigator, had worked the case for 8 months before gently suggesting Linda might need to accept the official conclusion. He'd followed every lead she'd generated, interviewed crew members who'd since left the Celestial Dream, even hired a maritime law expert to review the cruise line's security protocols. Nothing. No conspiracy, no cover-up, no evidence of foul play. Just a tragic accident and a grieving mother who couldn't let go. The cruise line had settled a wrongful death lawsuit for an undisclosed amount, enough to pay off Linda's mortgage and Sophia's college fund that would never be used. Blood money, Linda thought of it. She'd donated half to a foundation supporting families of missing children. Her life had contracted to a small circle: work as a medical records clerk at Jackson Memorial Hospital, therapy sessions with Dr. Morrison, weekly dinners with Rebecca and her family, and countless hours online researching child trafficking, maritime law, and unsolved missing persons cases. She'd become the kind of person other people pitied, the woman who'd lost her daughter on a cruise, the mother who'd never gotten closure, the tragic figure who posted anniversary tributes on Facebook every July 14th, keeping Sophia's memory alive while the rest of the world moved on. But Linda had learned something important over 6 years: how to appear healed while remaining vigilant. She'd learned to smile at the right moments, to talk about Sophia in past tense without her voice breaking, to let people think she was gradually accepting what had happened, all while maintaining her private investigation, her growing database of information, her unshakable certainty that her daughter was alive. "I'm doing better," Linda told Dr. Morrison, and this time her voice was steady, convincing. "I'm starting to accept that I may never know exactly what happened. That I need to focus on honoring Sophia's memory rather than obsessing over unanswerable questions. Dr. Morrison's face brightened with cautious hope. That's a significant shift, Linda. What changed? Nothing had changed. Linda had just gotten better at lying. But she gave him what he wanted to hear. A story about driving past Sophia's elementary school and feeling peace instead of anguish. About boxing up some of Sophia's clothes for donation. About considering dating again someday. By the time she left his office, Dr. Morrison looked genuinely pleased with her progress. Linda felt a twinge of guilt for manipulating him, but she needed him to believe she was healing. She couldn't risk being prescribed stronger medications that might dull her vigilance or worse, being recommended for inpatient treatment. She had work to do. That evening, Linda sat in her car outside a Publix supermarket in Coral Gables, fighting the urge to go inside. She'd been doing this more frequently lately, sitting in parking lots, watching families, looking for blonde girls who might be 15 now, who might have Sophia's eyes or her walk or her habit of tucking hair behind her left ear. Rebecca called it stalking. Dr. Morrison called it avoidance behavior. Linda called it hope. She was about to start the car and drive home when she saw them. A family of 3 emerged from the Publix entrance, a man and woman in their 40s, and between them a teenage girl with a shopping bag in each hand. The girl was laughing at something the man said, her blonde hair catching the late afternoon sun. Linda's heart stopped. She knew that laugh. She'd heard it 1,000 times. In their apartment, at the beach, in the car on the way to school. A distinctive sound, bright and unguarded, with a little snort at the end that Sophia had always been embarrassed about. The girl was taller now, her face longer and more mature, but the features were there. The small nose that turned up slightly at the tip, the wide-set blue eyes, the way she shifted her weight from foot to foot when standing still, a nervous habit Linda had tried for years to break her of. It was Sophia. Linda's hands shook so badly she couldn't get her phone out of her purse. By the time she managed to unlock it and open the camera, the family was already getting into a silver Honda Odyssey 3 rows away. Linda's fingers fumbled as she zoomed in, capturing shaky footage of the girl sliding into the back seat, still smiling. The van's license plate, BKH 742, Florida registration. Linda started her car with trembling hands and followed them out of the parking lot, keeping 2 cars back, her mind racing. It was Sophia. She was sure of it, but how could she be sure? 6 years had passed. Children changed. Memory was unreliable. She might be seeing what she desperately wanted to see. But that laugh, that distinctive snorting laugh. The van headed south on Coral Way, then turned onto a residential street lined with modest single-family homes. Linda followed, her pulse pounding in her ears. The van pulled into the driveway of a pale yellow house with a well-maintained lawn and a basketball hoop over the garage. Linda parked half a block away and watched as the family got out. The man grabbed the grocery bags while the woman and girl walked to the front door, chatting easily. A normal family on a normal evening. Except that girl with the blonde hair and the snorting laugh, was Sophia Grant, Linda's daughter, who had supposedly drowned 6 years ago. She sat there for 2 hours, watching the house. Lights came on in various rooms. Through the front window she could see figures moving around. Dinner preparations, probably. A television flickered in what looked like a living room. Completely ordinary. Completely impossible. At 8:47 p.m., Linda called Rebecca. I found her. Silence on the other end. Then carefully, Linda, honey, what are you talking about? Sophia, I found her. She's alive, Becca. She's in a house in Coral Gables with 2 people who aren't me. I saw her. I filmed her. It's her. Linda, we've been through this. You've thought you saw her before. Remember the girl at the mall, the one at the airport? You were so certain, but this is different. I know it's different. I need you to trust me. Can you trust me? Rebecca sighed. Where are you right now? Outside a house on SW 37th Avenue, number 2247. Linda, listen to me very carefully. Do not approach that house. Do not knock on the door. You need to call the police, and you need to do it the right way. If there's even a chance that you're right, you can't risk screwing this up by confronting them yourself. Do you understand?" Linda understood. She also understood that calling the police meant they'd show up, investigate, possibly dismiss her claim as another false alarm from the crazy lady who couldn't accept her daughter's death. She needed more evidence first. "I'll call them," Linda lied. "Can you come? I don't want to be alone when I do this." "I'm leaving now. Stay in your car. Don't do anything until I get there." Linda hung up and stared at the yellow house. Somewhere inside was either her daughter or a girl who looked remarkably like how Sophia would look at 15. Either way, she needed to know the truth. At 9:15 p.m., the girl appeared at an upstairs window. She stood there for a moment, backlit by bedroom light, looking out at the dark street. Even from this distance, even in shadow, Linda recognized her. The curve of her shoulders, the way she crossed her arms when thinking. The girl pulled curtains closed and the window went dark. Linda grabbed her phone with shaking hands and pulled up the footage she'd taken in the parking lot. She zoomed in on the girl's face, screenshotting the clearest frame. Then she compared it to photos of Sophia on her phone, school pictures from 3rd grade, candids from their last vacation. The face had matured, but the bone structure was the same. The shape of the eyebrows, the distance between the eyes, the slight asymmetry of the smile. Age progression software would confirm it, Linda was certain. This wasn't wishful thinking or grief-induced delusion. This was Sophia. Rebecca arrived 20 minutes later, parking behind Linda's car. She got in the passenger seat and immediately pulled Linda into a hug. "Show me," she said quietly. Linda showed her the video, the screenshots, the comparisons. Rebecca studied them carefully, her expression unreadable. "Becca, tell me you see it too." "I see a blonde girl who has some similar features," Rebecca said carefully. "But Linda, even if this is Sophia, and I'm not saying it is, but if it is, we need to handle this correctly. We need police. We need DNA testing. We need to follow proper procedures. You can't just storm in there and accuse these people of kidnapping." They did kidnap her. Somehow. I don't know how or why, but they did. And I'm going to prove it. Then let's do it the right way. Let me call Detective Garcia. He was assigned to Sophia's case originally. He knows you, he knows the history. He'll take this seriously. Linda wanted to argue, but Rebecca was right. She'd waited 6 years. She could wait a few more hours to do this properly. "Okay," she agreed. "Call him." Detective Raymond Garcia arrived at 10:30 p.m., parking his unmarked car next to Rebecca's. He was in his mid-50s now, grayer than Linda remembered, but his eyes still held the same kindness they'd shown 6 years ago when he'd taken her statement about the fake FBI card. He got in Linda's back seat and listened as she explained everything. The sighting at Publix, the distinctive laugh, the features that matched, the video evidence. He watched the footage carefully, his cop face revealing nothing. "Mrs. Grant," he said finally, "I'm going to be honest with you. I've responded to 4 similar calls from you over the past 6 years. Each time, we've investigated, and each time it's been a case of mistaken identity. I understand why you hold on to hope. I have kids myself. But I need you to prepare yourself for the possibility that this is another false alarm." "It's not," Linda said firmly. "I know it's not, but I understand you need to verify. So verify. Do whatever you need to do. Just please, take this seriously." Garcia nodded. "I'll run the plate, find out who lives in that house, and make some inquiries. But we need probable cause before we can demand DNA testing. We can't just knock on someone's door and accuse them of child abduction without evidence. Do you understand the position I'm in?" Linda understood perfectly. She was the woman who cried wolf. 6 years of false alarms had used up her credibility. But this time was different. "What if I approach them myself?" Linda asked. "What if I see the girl up close, talk to her, confirm it's Sophia before you get involved?" "Absolutely not," Garcia said firmly. "If, and this is a huge if, but if there's any truth to your suspicion, approaching them would tip them off. They could disappear. You could lose her again, this time permanently. Let me do my job, Mrs. Grant. Let me investigate properly. Linda wanted to scream. Sophia was inside that yellow house, 50 yards away, alive and real and within reach for the first time in 6 years. Every instinct screamed at her to run to that door, to call her daughter's name, to take her back. But she forced herself to nod. How long will the investigation take? I'll have preliminary information by tomorrow afternoon. Can you give me until then? It was an eternity. It was also her only option. Okay, Linda whispered. Tomorrow afternoon. Miami, Florida, March 18th, 2023. Linda didn't sleep that night. She sat at her kitchen table, staring at her phone, willing it to ring with news from Detective Garcia. At 3:00 a.m., she pulled out every document she'd kept from the original investigation, copies of witness statements, the security footage stills, the Coast Guard search reports, maritime law analyses. She spread them across the table like pieces of a puzzle she'd been trying to solve for 6 years. Somewhere in this mess was the connection. How had Sophia gotten from the Celestial Dream cruise ship to a house in Coral Gables? Who were the people raising her as their own? And why? Why would anyone orchestrate such an elaborate deception? Rebecca had stayed over, sleeping fitfully on Linda's couch. At 6:00 a.m., she shuffled into the kitchen, her hair disheveled, eyes puffy from lack of sleep. Any word? Linda shook her head. He said afternoon. It's barely morning. Rebecca put on coffee, then sat across from Linda, studying the documents spread between them. If this really is Sophia and I'm still processing that possibility, then someone on that ship helped make her disappear. Someone with access to restricted areas. Someone who knew the camera blind spots. I know, Linda said quietly. I've been thinking about that for 6 years. The crew member who reported seeing a child near the service elevator, his name was Thomas Keller. He worked in maintenance. I tried to find him after the cruise, but he'd quit the day we docked. Just walked off the job. The cruise line said they had no forwarding address for him. Did you tell Garcia about him? Back then, yes. They said there was no evidence of wrongdoing. Crew members quit all the time. It wasn't suspicious. Linda's voice was bitter. Nothing was ever suspicious enough. Not the witness statements, not the fake FBI card, not the camera blind spot that was just perfectly positioned. Rebecca sipped her coffee, thinking, if Sophia was taken by crew members and somehow smuggled off the ship, where would they have taken her? We docked in Nassau that morning. She could have been taken ashore there. But how? The ship was in lockdown. No one was allowed off during the search. Every person was accounted for. Every person whose identity was verified, Rebecca corrected. But what about cargo, supplies, crew rotations? There are always people coming and going from a docked ship. She could have been hidden in a laundry cart, a supply container, anything. Linda had thought of this countless times, but hearing Rebecca say it, Rebecca, who'd always urged her to accept Sophia's death, gave the theory new weight. At 2:47 p.m., Detective Garcia finally called. Mrs. Grant, I need you to come to the station. Bring your sister if she's available. Don't drive yourself. You're going to want someone with you for this. Linda's heart hammered against her ribs. Is it her? Did you confirm it? Just come to the station, I'll explain everything. The drive to the Miami Police Department felt endless. Rebecca drove while Linda sat in the passenger seat, her hands clenched so tightly her nails drew blood from her palms. This was it. 6 years of waiting, hoping, knowing. This was the moment everything changed. Garcia met them at the entrance and led them to a private conference room. His expression was carefully neutral, professional, but Linda could see something underneath. Excitement, maybe, or vindication. Mrs. Grant, Rebecca, please sit down. He opened a folder and slid several documents across the table. The vehicle you followed belongs to a couple named Robert and Elena Martinez. They've lived in Coral Gables for 8 years. Robert works as an accountant. Elena is a high school Spanish teacher. By all accounts, they're upstanding citizens with no criminal records. Linda's heart sank. This was the lead-up to another disappointment, another mistaken identity. They have one daughter, Garcia continued. Named Isabella Martinez, 15 years old. Birth certificate issued in Miami-Dade County. It's fake, Linda said immediately. The birth certificate is fake. That girl is Sofia. Garcia held up a hand. Let me finish. I did some digging into the Martinez's background. On paper, everything checks out. But there were some inconsistencies that bothered me. The birth certificate was issued 6 years ago, not at the time of birth, but as a delayed registration. The reason given was that the child was born at home in Cuba, and the family fled to the U.S. shortly after. Isabella supposedly entered the country as an unaccompanied Haitian orphan and was adopted by the Martinezes through an agency called Caribbean Angel Adoptions. Linda's pulse quickened. Go on. Caribbean Angel Adoptions closed down 5 years ago amid allegations of falsified documentation. Several of their adoptions are now under review by ICE and the State Department. But here's the interesting part. The agency was founded and operated by a man named Thomas Keller. The name hit Linda like a physical blow. The maintenance worker from the cruise ship. Garcia nodded. The same. Thomas Keller worked maintenance on the Celestial Dream from 2015 to 2017. He quit his job on July 15, 2017, the day your ship docked in Port Miami after Sofia's disappearance. Within 3 months, he'd started Caribbean Angel Adoptions with his wife, Elena Keller. Elena later divorced Thomas and married Robert Martinez. She kept her first husband's adoption business running until federal investigators started asking questions. Rebecca grabbed Linda's hand. Oh my God, you were right. You were right this whole time. I've requested a DNA comparison, Garcia said. But I needed to brief you first because this is going to move fast now. ICE is involved, the FBI's Child Exploitation Unit is involved, and the State Department has opened an investigation into potential international child trafficking. If Isabella Martinez is confirmed to be Sofia Grant, this becomes a federal case with international implications. Linda could barely breathe. Can I see her? Can I talk to her? Not yet. We need to handle this carefully if we're right. Isabella has been living as the Martinez's daughter for 6 years. She may have no memory of being Sofia Grant. She was 9 when she disappeared, young enough that memories could have been suppressed or replaced, especially if she experienced trauma. What kind of trauma? Linda demanded. What did they do to her? We don't know yet, but Mrs. Grant, I need you to prepare yourself for several possibilities. If this is Sofia, she may not remember you. She may identify strongly with the Martinez family. She may resist being returned to you. Children who've been taken young often bond with their captors, especially if those captors have treated them kindly. Linda felt tears streaming down her face. I don't care. I don't care if she hates me. I just want her back. I just want to know she's alive and safe. Garcia's expression softened. I know. And we're going to find out the truth. I've submitted a request for expedited DNA testing using the samples from Sofia's baby teeth that you provided 6 years ago. We should have results within 48 hours. In the meantime, we're conducting surveillance on the Martinez residence and initiating interviews with Thomas Keller's known associates. 48 hours, Linda repeated numbly. After 6 years, 48 hours felt impossibly long and impossibly short. There's one more thing, Garcia said carefully. I pulled the security footage from the Publix where you saw them. I want you to watch this and tell me if you notice anything specific about the girl's behavior. He opened his laptop and played surveillance footage from multiple angles. Linda watched the Martinez family shop, saw them in the produce section, the dairy aisle, the checkout line. She watched Isabella, Sofia, help load groceries onto the conveyor belt, laugh at something Elena said, roll her eyes at Robert like any normal teenager with parents. What am I looking for? Linda asked. Watch her left hand. Linda focused on Isabella's left hand. The girl was right-handed. She pushed the cart with her right hand, picked up items with her right hand, gestured while talking with her right hand. But her left hand hung at her side. The fingers curled slightly inward. The movement looked stiff, limited. She has reduced mobility in her left hand, Garcia said. I contacted the Martinez's health insurance provider, legally as part of the investigation. Isabella has been seeing an occupational therapist for partial paralysis in her left hand. The medical records state it's a congenital condition. But I pulled Sophia's medical records from her pediatrician. Sophia had perfect hand function. No injuries, no conditions, nothing that would cause paralysis. Linda's stomach turned. Something happened to her hand after they took her. That's my theory. I'm working on getting access to the full medical history, but there are privacy protections we have to navigate carefully. Garcia closed the laptop. Mrs. Grant, I need to be very clear about something. If this is Sophia and if her hand was injured during or after her abduction, we may be looking at additional charges beyond kidnapping. We may be looking at child abuse, assault, potentially worse. Linda's world tilted. She'd spent 6 years imagining Sophia alive somewhere, but she'd imagined her safe, unharmed. The possibility that her daughter had suffered, that someone had hurt her badly enough to cause permanent injury, was unbearable. I want to see her, Linda said firmly. I don't care about protocols or procedures. That's my daughter. I want to see her. Garcia shook his head. I understand, but we have to do this right. If you approach her before we have legal authority, if you contact her or the Martinezes directly, you could compromise the entire investigation. You could give them time to flee or destroy evidence. You could lose her again, this time forever. Can you wait 2 more days? Every fiber of Linda's being screamed to run to that yellow house, to kick down the door, to take her daughter back by force. But she'd waited 6 years. She could wait 48 more hours. Okay, she whispered. 2 days. Those 2 days were the longest of Linda's life. She took emergency leave from work. She stayed at Rebecca's house because she couldn't trust herself to stay away from the Martinez residence. She obsessively checked her phone every 3 minutes, waiting for Garcia's call. Rebecca distracted her by helping research Thomas Keller. They found his social media profiles, his business records from Caribbean Angel Adoptions, his marriage and divorce records. They built a timeline of his movements after leaving the Celestial Dream. They found photos of him with his wife, Elena, who was now Elena Martinez. They found the adoption agency's website, archived but still accessible, showing smiling children with their new families. How many of those children had been stolen? How many families had been destroyed by Keller's operation? On the second day, at 4:37 p.m., Garcia called. It's a match. Isabella Martinez is Sophia Grant. The DNA is conclusive. Linda collapsed. Rebecca caught her, held her while she sobbed. Not from grief this time, but from overwhelming relief and rage and love and terror all mixed together. What happens now? Rebecca asked Garcia, her voice shaking. We execute search warrants on the Martinez residence and Thomas Keller's last known address. We bring Elena Martinez in for questioning. We coordinate with federal authorities to locate any other potential victims of this trafficking ring. And Mrs. Grant, you get your daughter back. When? Linda managed to ask through her tears. Tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. We'll conduct the operation then. I need you to be at the station by 8. There will be social workers present, psychologists, victim advocates. This is going to be traumatic for Sophia, for Isabella. She's going to need support from everyone. I'll be there, Linda said. I'll be there. That night, Linda couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, couldn't think about anything except Sophia. Her baby, alive. Her daughter, 15 years old now, living less than 20 minutes away. So close, Linda could have passed her on the street 100 times. She spent hours looking through old photos, tracing the curve of Sophia's 9-year-old face, trying to map it onto the 15-year-old she'd seen in the Publix parking lot. She pulled out Sophia's room that she'd kept exactly as it was, the bed still made, the posters still on the walls, the bookshelf still filled with marine biology books. Would Sophia remember this room? Would she remember Linda? Would she want to come home? At 7:45 a.m. on March 20th, 2023, Linda sat in a conference room at the Miami Police Department, surrounded by people whose names and faces blurred together. Social workers, FBI agents, victim advocates, psychologists. They briefed her on what to expect, how to approach Sophia, what to say and what not to say. Don't overwhelm her. Don't expect immediate recognition. Don't push for physical affection. Let her process. Give her time. Be patient. Linda nodded through it all, barely hearing. All she could think was, my daughter is alive. At 8:47 a.m., Garcia's radio crackled. We're at the residence, approaching now. Linda's heart stopped. This was it. After 6 years, 3 months, and 6 days, her daughter was coming back to her. The radio crackled again. We have the subjects detained. The girl is unharmed. She's asking what's happening. Sending social workers in now. Linda gripped Rebecca's hand so hard she felt bones shift. On the radio, she could hear muffled voices, confusion, a young girl's voice rising in fear and protest. I want to be there, Linda said desperately. I need to be there. Soon, the psychologist assured her. Let them bring her here. Let them prepare her. You'll see her very soon. At 9:23 a.m., the conference room door opened, and Sophia Grant, alive and 15 years old, walked through it. Miami Police Department, March 20th, 2023. Linda's breath caught in her throat. The girl standing in the doorway was taller than she'd imagined. Her blonde hair darker now, almost honey-colored. She wore jeans and a purple hoodie, her left hand tucked into the front pocket while her right hand gripped the doorframe. Her blue eyes, Sophia's eyes, were wide with confusion and fear. Mom? The word came out as a question, tentative and broken. Linda stood on trembling legs. Sophia, baby, it's me. The girl's face crumpled. My name is Isabella. Why are you calling me Sophia? What's happening? Where are my parents? A social worker named Maria stepped forward gently. Isabella, why don't you sit down? We have a lot to explain to you. I don't want to sit down. The girl's voice cracked with panic. I want my mom. I want Elena. Someone tell me what's going on. Linda felt her heart breaking all over again. Sophia didn't remember her. 6 years had erased everything. Their life together, their bond, their love. This frightened teenager saw Linda as a stranger. Detective Garcia entered behind Sophia, his expression grave. Isabella, please. We need to talk to you about your adoption, about how you came to live with the Martinez family. I know how I came to live with them. I was orphaned in Haiti. Elena and Robert adopted me when I was 9. They saved me. They gave me a home. The words sounded rehearsed, memorized. That's what they told you, Garcia said carefully. But it's not the truth. Your real name is Sophia Grant. You were born in Miami. You lived here with your mother, Linda, until you were 9 years old. You disappeared from a cruise ship in July 2017. Sophia, Isabella, shook her head violently. No, that's not true. You're lying. Why are you doing this? Linda couldn't stay silent anymore. You had a stuffed dolphin named Captain Finns. Your favorite color was turquoise. You wanted to be a marine biologist and study at the University of Miami. You could name every species of dolphin by the time you were 7. Your middle name is Marie after my grandmother. You lost your first tooth on that cruise ship 2 days before. Her voice broke. 2 days before they took you from me. The girl stared at Linda, her expression shifting from anger to uncertainty. I don't remember any of that. You were 9 years old, the psychologist interjected gently. Traumatic experiences, especially at that age, can cause memory suppression. It's the mind's way of protecting itself. What happened to your hand? Linda asked softly, noticing how Isabella kept her left hand hidden. Isabella's right hand instinctively moved to cover her left. I was born with it. Nerve damage from birth complications. No, sweetheart. You weren't. You had perfect hands. I have photos, medical records, videos of you playing piano with both hands. Linda pulled out her phone with shaking fingers, scrolling to a video. Look, this is you, 3 months before the cruise. Watch. On the screen, 9-year-old Sophia sat at their apartment's electric keyboard, playing a simple melody with both hands moving freely, laughing when she hit a wrong note. Isabella stared at the video, her face pale. That's not me. That can't be me. It is you, baby. And whatever they did to your hand, whatever happened to you, we're going to help you. We're going to get you the best doctors, the best care, but first I need you to understand that you were taken from me. You were stolen. And I have been looking for you every single day for 6 years. Tears streamed down Isabella's face. Elena and Robert love me. They've been good to me. They didn't steal me. They saved me from... She stopped abruptly. From what? Garcia asked, leaning forward. Isabella's lips pressed into a tight line. She looked terrified, conflicted. Maria, the social worker, knelt beside the girl's chair. Isabella, you're safe now. Whatever you were told to say, whatever you were threatened with, it's over. These people can't hurt you anymore. They never hurt me, Isabella insisted, but her voice wavered. They were my family. They are my family. I don't know you. She looked at Linda with anguish. I don't remember you. How can you be my mother if I don't remember you? Linda moved closer, slowly, carefully, as if approaching a wounded animal. Because love doesn't need memory. Because I carried you for 9 months. I held you when you were born. I watched you take your first steps and say your first words. Because every night for 6 years I've gone to sleep wondering if you were alive, if you were safe, if you remembered me. Because you are my daughter, Sophia, and nothing, not time, not distance, not even stolen memories can change that. Isabella sobbed, her body shaking. Linda wanted desperately to hold her, to comfort her, but she forced herself to wait, to let Sophia come to her if and when she was ready. I'm scared, Isabella whispered. I don't know what's real anymore. I know, sweetheart. I know. But we're going to figure this out together. We're going to help you remember, or if you can't remember, we're going to build new memories, whatever you need, however long it takes. Garcia cleared his throat. Isabella, we need to ask you some difficult questions about Thomas Keller, about how you came to the Martinez family, about what happened to your hand. Isabella flinched at the name Thomas Keller. I don't want to talk about him. Why not? Garcia asked gently. Because Elena said never to talk about the adoption man. She said it was private, that people wouldn't understand, that they'd try to take me away. Fresh tears spilled down her cheeks. She said if anyone found out, I'd be sent back to Haiti, to an orphanage where no one would want me. She lied to you, Linda said, her voice hardening with anger, not at Sophia, but at the people who'd done this to her. You were never from Haiti. You were never an orphan. You had a mother who loved you more than anything in the world. And they stole you. They stole 6 years of your life, 6 years of our life together. Isabella looked at Linda with red-rimmed eyes. Why? Why would they do that? Money, Garcia said bluntly. Thomas Keller ran an adoption agency that sold children to families willing to pay premium prices for white, English-speaking children with falsified documentation. He and his accomplices would identify vulnerable targets, children traveling with single parents, children in situations where they might plausibly disappear. They'd stage accidents or abductions, then smuggle the children through the Caribbean to waiting buyers. So I was. Merchandise? Isabella's voice was small, broken. You were a victim, Maria corrected firmly. This was not your fault. None of this was your fault. Isabella turned back to Linda. Do you really have proof? That I'm your daughter? Linda nodded, pulling out the folder Garcia had given her. DNA test results, birth certificate with your footprints, hospital photos from the day you were born, pictures of us together from 9 years of your life, medical records showing you had no hand problems. All of it proves you're Sophia Grant, my daughter. Isabella took the folder with trembling hands and began looking through it. Linda watched her face as she studied each document, each photo, watched as recognition flickered, not of memories perhaps, but of truth. This woman, Isabella said, pointing to a photo of Linda holding baby Sophia. She looks like me. She is you. You were 3 days old in that picture. I'd been home from the hospital for 1 day. You wouldn't stop crying unless I held you, so I held you for 18 hours straight. Isabella traced her finger over the image of infant Sophia's face, then her own baby face. She looked up at Linda with devastation in her eyes. What do I do now? I have 2 mothers, 2 lives. How do I choose? You don't have to choose right away, the psychologist said. This is a process. We'll help you through it. But Linda knew the truth would be harder than that. Sophia had bonded with Elena Martinez for 6 formative years. Those weren't fake relationships, even if they were built on lies and crimes. Untangling this would take time, maybe years, maybe forever. All Linda knew was that her daughter was alive, sitting 3 feet away from her, and that was everything. Miami, Florida, September 2023. 6 months had passed since that morning at the police department. 6 months of therapy sessions, DNA confirmations, legal proceedings, and painfully slow reconciliation. Linda sat in Dr. Morrison's office, the same office where she'd spent years being told to accept her daughter's death, now discussing the complex reality of having her back. How was this week? Dr. Morrison asked. Better. Sophia came over for dinner twice. She didn't ask to leave early either time. Linda allowed herself a small smile. She's starting to call me Linda Mom to distinguish me from Elena. It's something. The legal situation had been devastating for everyone involved. Elena Martinez, now Elena Keller again after the truth emerged, faced 20 years for child trafficking and falsifying adoption documents. Robert Martinez, who genuinely believed Isabella was a legal adoption, had been cleared of criminal charges but lost custody immediately. Thomas Keller, the architect of it all, was facing federal charges that could result in life imprisonment. Investigators had uncovered 5 other children stolen through Keller's operation. Children taken from hotels, shopping malls, even other cruise ships, all of them placed with wealthy families who'd paid premium prices for children with clean backgrounds and falsified papers. The case had made international headlines. Cruise ship kidnapping ring exposed after 6 years. But for Linda and Sophia, the headlines meant nothing. What mattered was the slow, agonizing process of rebuilding a relationship that had been shattered and reconstructed on fundamentally different terms. Has she remembered anything else? Dr. Morrison asked. Linda nodded. Small things. She recognized Captain Finn's when I showed him to her. She didn't remember the name, but she said the dolphin felt familiar. And last week, I played some of her favorite songs from when she was 9. She started crying, said the music made her feel safe, but she didn't know why. The doctors explained that Sophia's memories weren't gone, just buried. The trauma of being taken, combined with years of being told a false history, had created layers of psychological protection. Some memories might return, others might stay hidden forever. What about her hand? Dr. Morrison asked carefully. Linda's expression darkened. The orthopedic surgeon says it was definitely traumatic injury, not congenital. Best guess is she tried to resist or escape early on, and someone, probably Keller, broke 3 fingers and damaged the radial nerve. They never got her proper treatment. Just told her she'd been born that way. Linda's voice shook with suppressed rage. She lived with chronic pain for years, thinking it was normal, thinking that was just how her body was. They'd started Sophia on physical therapy and pain management. Surgery might restore some function, but the nerve damage was permanent. Her daughter would carry that physical scar for the rest of her life, a constant reminder of what had been stolen from her. How are you managing your anger? Dr. Morrison asked. I'm not, Linda admitted. I'm furious every single day. At Keller, at Elena, at the cruise line for their inadequate security, at the Coast Guard for stopping the search too soon, at everyone who didn't believe me when I said something was wrong. But I can't show that anger to Sophia. She needs stability, patience, understanding. So I come here and rage at you instead. Dr. Morrison smiled slightly. That's actually very healthy, Linda. You're protecting her from your justified anger while processing it appropriately. That's good parenting. The irony wasn't lost on Linda. 6 years ago, Dr. Morrison had been trying to convince her to accept Sophia's death. Now he was helping her navigate having Sophia back. The reversal was strange, but welcome. The hardest part, Linda said quietly, is accepting that I missed 6 years. She went through puberty without me. Had her first period, her first crush, learned to drive, all of it with Elena. Elena was the one she called mom for 6 years. Elena was the one she confided in, laughed with, trusted. And I know Elena was a criminal, that she stole my daughter, but Sophia loved her anyway. Still loves her probably. How do I compete with that? You don't compete, Dr. Morrison said firmly. You coexist. Sophia's feelings for Elena are real, even if the circumstances were false. She can love both of you, Linda. Human hearts are big enough for complicated emotions. Linda knew he was right, but it didn't make it easier. That evening, Sophia came over for dinner as planned. She arrived in Rebecca's car. Rebecca had been serving as a neutral transportation service, helping ease the transitions between Linda's apartment and the foster home, where Sophia was temporarily staying while the courts sorted out permanent custody. "Hey, Linda, Mom," Sophia said, the nickname still awkward on her tongue. She carried her backpack and a textbook. "Can I do homework here? My foster house is too loud." "Of course, sweetheart. I'll start dinner. Do you still like—" Linda caught herself. "What do you like for dinner these days?" It was a dance they did constantly. Linda trying not to assume Sophia's preferences were the same as when she was 9, while Sophia tried to remember what she might have liked before. "Pasta?" Sophia suggested. "Elena always made—" She stopped, guilt flashing across her face. "It's okay," Linda said gently. "You can talk about Elena. You can talk about your life with her. It happened. It was real to you. I'm not going to pretend it wasn't." Sophia's shoulders relaxed slightly. "She made really good carbonara. I don't know if I liked it before, but I like it now. Then let's make carbonara together." They worked side by side in the small kitchen, and for a few moments it almost felt normal, almost felt like mother and daughter cooking together, the way they might have if none of this had ever happened. "Can I ask you something?" Sophia said, cracking eggs into a bowl. "Anything. The cruise ship. What do you remember about that last night, before I was taken?" Linda's hand stilled on the pasta pot. They'd avoided talking about the actual abduction. The therapist said Sophia would ask when she was ready. "We had dinner at the buffet. You had 3 desserts even though I told you to pick one. We watched the sunset from the upper deck. You were excited about swimming with dolphins the next day in Nassau. We went back to the cabin around 10. You brushed your teeth, put on your star pajamas, got into bed with Captain Finns. I kissed you goodnight. You said, 'Love you, Mom.' Those were the last words you said to me for 6 years." Sophia was quiet, whisking eggs with intense focus. "I don't remember any of that, but sometimes I have dreams about water and darkness and being scared, and someone telling me to be quiet, that everything would be okay if I just stayed quiet." "Do you remember who said that?" "A man, I think. I think he was wearing a white uniform, like the crew wore." Sophia's whisking slowed. "And then there was a small room, dark and hot, and my hand hurt so bad I thought I was dying, and someone gave me medicine that made me sleep." Linda forced herself to breathe normally to not react with the horror and rage boiling inside her. "You're safe now. They can't hurt you anymore. I know. But sometimes I'm angry that I can't remember everything. Like there's this whole part of my life that's just gone, and I don't know if I want it back or if I'm glad it's gone." "Either feeling is valid," Linda said, echoing what the therapists had told her to say. They finished cooking in comfortable silence. Over dinner, Sophia talked about school. She was starting 10th grade soon, catching up on education she'd missed while living under a false identity. She talked about her foster siblings, about the physical therapy for her hand, about the strange experience of watching news reports about herself. "They called me the miracle girl," Sophia said, rolling her eyes. "Like I came back from the dead. It's so weird." You did come back from the dead, Linda said quietly. At least that's what everyone thought, including me, sometimes, even though I never stopped looking. Sophia met her eyes. Why didn't you stop? Everyone else did. The Coast Guard, the police, even David. Why were you the only one who kept believing? Because I'm your mother. Because I felt in my bones that you were still alive. Call it instinct, call it denial, call it whatever you want. But I knew. I always knew. Tears welled in Sophia's eyes. I wish I remembered you feeling that way. I wish I remembered loving you. Because I want to love you now, but it feels like I'm supposed to love a stranger. And that's really hard. Linda reached across the table and gently took Sophia's good hand. Then we'll start from here. Not from the past, but from right now. We'll build something new. And maybe someday the old memories will come back, or maybe they won't. But either way, we'll have new ones. Better ones. Ones that nobody can steal from us. Sophia squeezed her hand, tentative but real. Okay, we can try that. It wasn't a Hollywood ending. There was no magical moment of recognition, no tearful reunion where everything was instantly perfect. There was just this. Two people who shared DNA and trauma, sitting at a table, eating carbonara, trying to figure out how to be mother and daughter again. It was messy and complicated and painful. But it was real. And for Linda, after 6 years of ashes and lies and empty beds, real was everything. Outside, the Miami sun set in brilliant oranges and pinks. Somewhere, Thomas Keller sat in a jail cell awaiting trial. Somewhere, Elena Keller did the same. Somewhere, 4 other families reunited with children they'd thought lost forever, beginning their own painful journeys of reconstruction. But in Linda's small apartment, mother and daughter did the dishes together, Sophia's left hand clumsy but determined, Linda's patience infinite. Same time tomorrow? Linda asked as Rebecca arrived to drive Sophia back. Sophia hesitated, then smiled, small but genuine. Yeah, same time tomorrow. And for now, that was enough.